The 17th book of Homer's Iliads. The argument. A dreadful fight about Patroclus's corse, Euphorbus slain by Menelaus's force, Hector in the armor of Aeacides, Antilochus relating the decease of slain Patroclus to fair Thetis' son, the body from the striving Trojans won, the Ajaces making good the after field, make all the subject that this book doth yield. Another argument. In Roe, the venturous hosts maintain a slaughterous conflict for the slain. Nor could his slaughter rest concealed from Menelaus' ear, who flew amongst the foremost fights, and with his targe and spear circled the body, as much grieved, and with as tender heed to keep it theirs, as any dam about her firstborn seed, not proving what pain of birth would make the love before, nor to pursue his first attaint Euphorbus' spirit forbore. But seeing Menelaus chief in rescue of the dead, essayed him thus: Atrides, cease, and leave the slaughtered, with his imbrued spoil to the man that first of all our state and famous succours in fair fight made passage to his fate, and therefore suffer me to wear the good name I have won amongst the Trojans, lest thy life repay what his hath done. O Jupiter, said he, incensed, thou art no honest man, to boast so past thy power to do. Not any lion can, nor spotted leopard nor boar, whose mind is mightiest in pouring fury from his strength, advance so proud a crest as Panthus' fighting progeny, but Hipporenor's pride, that joyed so little time his youth, when he so vilified my force in arms, and called me worst of all our chivalry, and stood my worst, might teach ye all to shun this circuitry. I think he came not safely home to tell his wife his acts, nor less right of thy insolence my equal fate exacts, and will obtain me, if thou stay'st. Retire then, take advice. A fool sees not before 'tis done, and still too late is wise. This moved not him, but to the worse, since it renewed the sting that his slain brother shot in him, remembered by the king, to whom he answered, Thou shalt pay for all the pains endured by that slain brother, all the wounds sustained for him, recured with one made in thy heart by me. 'Tis true thou madest his wife a heavy widow, when her joys of wedlock scarce had life, and hurt'st our parents with his grief, all which thou gloriest in, for speaking so thy death, that now their grief's end shall begin. To Panthus and the snowy hand of Phrontes I will bring those arms, and that proud head of thine, and this laborious thing shall ask no long time to perform, nor be my words alone, but their performance, strength and fight and terror thus sets on. This said, he strook his all-round shield, nor shrunk that, but his lance that turned head in it. Then the king essayed the second chance, first praying to the king of gods, and his dart entry got, the force much driving back his foe, in low part of his throat, and ran his neck through. Then fell pride, and he, and all with gore his locks, that like the Graces were, and which he ever wore in gold and silver ribbons wrapped, were piteously wet, and when alone in some choice place, a husbandman hath set the young plant of an olive tree, whose root being ever fed with plenty of delicious springs, his branches bravely spread, and all his fresh and lovely head, grown curled with snowy flowers that dance and flourish with the winds, that are of gentlest powers. But when a whirlwind got aloft, stoops with a sudden gale, tears from his head his tender curls, and tosseth therewithal his fixed root from his hollow minds, it well presents the force of Sparta's king, and so the plant Euphorbus and his course. He slain, the king stripped off his arms, and with their worthy prize, all fearing him, had clearly passed, if heaven's fair eye of eyes had not, in envy of his acts, to his encounter stirred the Mars-like Hector, to whose powers the rescue he preferred of those fair arms, and took the shape of Menelaus, colonel of all the Cicones, that near the Thracian Hebrus dwell. Like him, he thus puts forth his voice: Hector, thou scourest the field, in headstrong pursuit of those horse, that hardly are compelled to take the draught of chariots by any mortal's hand. The great-grandchild of Aeacus hath only their command, whom an immortal mother bore, while thou attendest on these, the young Atrides, in defence of Menetiades, hath slain Euphorbus. Thus the god took troop with men again, and Hector, heartily perplexed, looked round and saw the slain still shedding rivers from his wound, and then took envious view of brave Atrides with his spoil, in way to whom he flew like one of Vulcan's quenchless flames. Atrides heard the cry that ever ushered him, and sighed, and said, O me, if I should leave these goodly arms and him that here lies dead for me, I fear I should offend the Greeks. If I should stay and be alone with Hector and his men, I may be compassed in, some sleight or other they may use, many may quickly win their wills of one, and all Troy comes ever where Hector leads. But why, dear mine, dost thou thus talk, when men dare set their heads against the gods, as sure they do that fight with men they love, straight one or other plague ensues? It cannot, therefore, move the grudge of any Greek that sees I yield to Hector. He still fighting with a spirit from heaven, and yet if I could see brave Ajax, he and I would stand, though against a god, and sure 'tis best I seek him, and then see if we too can procure this course's freedom through all these. A little then let rest the body, and my mind be still. Of two bads choose the best. In this discourse the troops of Troy were in with him, and he made such a lion-like retreat as when the herdsmen see the royal savage, and come on, with men, dogs, cries, and spears, to clear their horned stall. And then the kingly heart he bears, with all his high disdain, falls off, so from his odds of aid the golden hair Atrides fled, and in his strength displayed, upon his left hand him he wished, extremely busied about encouraging his men, to whom an extreme dread Apollo had infused. The king reached Ajax instantly, and said, Come, friend, let us too haste, and from the tyranny of Hector free Patroclus's corse. He straight and gladly went, and then was Hector hailing off the body, with intent to spoil the shoulders of the dead, and give the dogs the rest, his arms he having prized before, when Ajax brought his breast to bar all further spoil. With that he had, sure Hector thought 'twas best to satisfy his spleen, which temper Ajax wrought with his mere sight, and Hector fled. The arms he sent to Troy to make his citizens admire, and prayed Jove send him joy. Then Ajax gathered to the course, and hit it with his targe, there setting down as sure a foot as in the tender charge of his loved whelps a lion doth. 200 hunters near to give him onset, their more force makes him the more austere, drowns all their clamours in his roars, darts, dogs, doth all despise, and lets his rough brows down so low they cover all his eyes. So Ajax looked and stood, and stayed for great Priamides. When Glaucus Hippolochides saw Ajax thus depress the spirit of Hector, thus he chid, O goodly man-at-arms, in fight a Paris, why should fame make thee fort 'gainst our harms, being such a fugitive? Now mark, how well thy boast defend thy city only with her own. Be sure it shall descend to that proof holy. Not a man of any Lycian rank shall strike one stroke more for thy town, for no man gets a thank should he eternally fight here, nor any guard of thee. How wilt thou, worthless that thou art, keep off an enemy from our poor soldiers, when their prince, Sarpedon, guest and friend to thee, and most deservedly, thou flewest from in his end, and left to all the lust of Greece? O gods, a man that was, in life, so huge a good to Troy, and to thee such a grace, in death, not kept by thee from dogs? If my friends will do well, we'll take our shoulders from your walls, and let all sink to hell, as all will, were our faces turned. Did such a spirit breathe in all you Trojans, as becomes all men that fight beneath their country's standard, you would see that such a prop your cause, with like exposure of their lives, have all the honored laws of such a dear confederacy kept to them to a thread, as now ye might reprise the arms Sarpedon forfeited, by forfeit of your rights to him, would you but lend your hands, and force Patroclus to your Troy. Ye know how dear he stands in his love, that of all the Greeks he is, for himself, far best, and leads the best near fighting men, and therefore would at least redeem Sarpedon's arms, nay, him, whom you have likewise lost. This body drawn to Iliad would after draw and cost a greater ransom, if you please, but Ajax startles you. 'Tis his breast bars this right to us. His looks are darts enow, to mix great Hector with his men, and not to blame ye are. You chose foes underneath your strengths. Ajax exceeds ye far. Hector looked passing sour at this, and answered, Why darest thou, so under, talk above me so? O friend, I thought till now thy wisdom was superior to all the inhabitants of glebby Lycia, but now impute apparent once to that discretion thy words show. To say I lost my ground for Ajax's greatness, nor fear I the field in combats drowned, nor force of chariots, but I fear a power much better seen in right of all war than all we, that God, that holds between our victory and us his shield, lets conquest come and go at his free pleasure, and with fear converts her changes so upon the strongest. Men must fight when his just spirit impels, nor their vain glories. But come on, make thy steps parallels to these of mine, and then be judge how deep the work will draw. If then I spend the day in shifts, or thou canst give such law to thy detractive speeches then, or if the Grecian host holds any that in pride of strength holds up his spirit most, whom, for the carriage of this prince, that thou enforcest so, I make not stoop in his defence. You, friends, ye hear and know how much it fits ye to make good this Grecian I have slain, for ransom of Jove's son, our friend. Play then the worthy men, till I endue Achilles' arms. This said, he left the fight, and called back those that bore the arms, not yet without his sight, in convoy of them towards Troy. For them he changed his own, removed from where it rained tears, and sent them back to town. Then put he on the eternal arms, that the celestial states gave Peleus. Peleus, being old, their use appropriates to his Achilles, that, like him, forsook them not for age. When he, whose empire is in the clouds, saw Hector bent to wage war in divine Achilles' arms, he shook his head and said, Poor wretch, thy thoughts are far from death, though he so near hath laid his ambush for thee. Thou puttest on those arms as braving him, whom others fear, hast slain his friend, and from his youthful limb torn rudely off his heavenly arms, himself being gentle, kind, and valiant. Equal measure, then, thy life in youth must find. Yet since the justice is so strict that not Andromache, in thy denied return from fight, must ever take of thee those arms, in glory of thy acts. Thou shalt have that frail blaze of excellence that neighbors death, a strength even to amaze. To this his sable brows did bow, and he made fit his limb to those great arms, to fill which up the war god entered him, austere and terrible. His joints and every part extends with strength and fortitude, and thus to his admiring friends high clamor brought him. He so shined that all could think no less, but he resembled every way great-souled Aeacides. Then every way he scoured the field, his captains calling on, Asteropaeus, Eunomus, that foresaw all things done, Glaucus and Medon, Decenor, and strong Thersilochus, Phorcys and Mesthles, Chromius and great Hippothous. To all these and their populous troops, these his excitements were. Hear us, innumerable friends, near bordering nations, hear. We have not called you from our towns, to fill our idle eye with number of so many men, nor such vain empery did ever joy us, but to fight, and of our Trojan wives, with all their children, manfully to save the innocent lives, in whose cares we draw all our towns of aiding soldiers dry, with gifts, guards, victual, all things fit, and hearten their supply with all like rights. And therefore now let all sides set down this, or live or perish. This of war the special secret is, in which most resolute design whoever bears to town Patroclus, laid dead to his hand, by winning the renown of Ajax's slaughter, the half-spoil we wholly will impart to his free use, and to ourselves the other half convert. And so the glory shall be shared. Ourself will have no more than he shall shine in. This drew all to bring abroad their store before the body. Every man had hope it would be his, and forced from Ajax. Silly fools! Ajax prevented this by raising rampires to his friend with half their carcasses, and yet his humor was to roar and fear, and now no less to startle Sparta's king, to whom he cried out, "O my friend, O Menelaus, now no hope to get off. Here's the end of all our labors. Not so much I fear to lose the course, for that's sure gone. The fowls of Troy and dogs will quickly force that piecemeal. As I fear my head and thine, O Atreus' son, Hector a cloud brings will hide all. Instant destruction, grievous and heavy, comes. Oh, call our peers to aid us, fly!" He hasted and used all his voice, sent far and near his cry. "O princes, chief lights of the Greeks, and you that publicly eat with our general and me, all men of charge, oh, no Jove gives both grace and dignity to any that will show good minds for only good itself, though presently the eye of him that rules discern him not. 'Tis hard for me to espy through all this smoke of burning fight, each captain in his place, and call assistance to our need. Be then each other's grace, and freely follow each his next, disdain to let the joy of great Aeacides be forced to feed the beasts of Troy." His voice was first heard and obeyed by swift Iliades. Idomeneus and his mate, renowned Meriones, were seconds to Oileus' son, but of the rest, whose mind can lay upon his voice the names that after these combined in setting up this fight on end, the Trojans first gave on, and as into the sea's vast mouth, when mighty rivers run, their billows and the sea resound, and all the utter shore rebellows in their angry shocks the sea's repulsive roar. With such sounds gave the Trojans charge, so was their charge repressed. One mind filled all Greeks, good brass shields close couched to every breast, and on their bright helms Jove poured down a mighty deal of night to hide Patroclus, whom alive, and when he was the knight of that grandchild of Aeacus, Saturnius did not hate, nor dead would see him dealt to dogs, and so did instigate his fellows to his worthy guard. At first the Trojans drave the black-eyed Grecians from the course, but not a blow they gave that came at death. A while they hung about the body's heels, the Greeks quite gone, but all that while did Ajax whet the steels of all his forces, that cut back way to the course again. Brave Ajax, that for form and fact passed all that did maintain the Grecian fame, next Thetis' son, now flew before the first, and as a sort of dogs and youths are by a boar dispersed about a mountain, so fled these from mighty Ajax, all that stood in conflict for the course, who thought no chance could fall betwixt them and the prize at Troy. For both Hippothous, Lethus' Pelasgus' famous son, was so adventurous that he would stand to bore the course about the ankle bone, where all the nervy fibres meet and ligaments in one, that make the motion of those parts, through which he did convey the thong or bawdrick of his shield, and so was drawing away all thanks from Hector and his friends. But in their stead he drew an ill that no man could avert, for Telamonius threw a lance that struck quite through his helm, his brain came leaping out. Down fell Lethiades, and with him the body's hoisted foot. Far from Larissa's soil he fell, a little time allowed to his industrious spirits to quit the benefits bestowed by his kind parents. But his wreak Priamides essayed, and threw at Ajax, but his dart, discovered, passed and stayed at Schedius, son of Iphitus, a man of ablest hand of all the strong Phocensians, and lived with great command in Panopeus. The fell dart fell through his channel bone, pierced through his shoulder's upper part, and set his spirit gone. When after his another flew, the same hand giving wing to martial Phorcys' startled soul, that was the afterspring of Phaenops' seed. The javelin struck his curates through, and tore the bowels from his belly's midst. His fall made those before give back a little, Hector's self enforced to turn his face. And then the Greeks bestowed their shouts, took advantage of the chase, drew off and spoiled Hippothous and Phorcys of their arms, and then ascended Ilion had shaken with alarms, discovering the impotence of Troy, even past the will of Jove, and by the proper force of Greece had Phoebus failed to move Aeneas in similitude of Periphas, the son of grave Epites, king at arms, and had good service done to old Anchises, being wise, and even with him in years. But, like this man, the far-seen god to Venus' son appears, and asked him how he would maintain steep Ilion in her height, in spite of gods, as he presumed, when men approve so slight all his presumptions, and all theirs that puffed him with that pride, believing in their proper strengths, and generally supplied with such unfrighted multitudes. But he well knew that Jove, beside their self-conceits, sustained their forces with more love than theirs of Greece. In it all that lacked power to hearten them. Aeneas knew the god, and said, it was a shame extreme that those of Greece should beat them so, and by their cowardice, not want of man's aid nor the gods, and this before his eyes a deity stood even now and vouched, affirming Jove their aid, and so bade Hector and the rest, to whom all this he said, turn head, and not in that quick ease part with the course to Greece. This said, before them all he flew, and all as of a piece against the Greeks flew. Venus' son Leocritus did end. Venus' son Leocritus did end, son of Arisbas, and had place of Lycomedes' friend, whose fall he friendly pitied, and in revenge bestowed a lance that Apisaon struck, so sore that straight he strode the dusty centre. It did stick in that congealed blood that forms the liver. Second man he was of all that stood in name for arms amongst the troop that from Paeonia came, Asteropaeus being the first, who was in ruth the same that Lycomedes was, like whom he put forth for the wreak of his slain friend, but wrought it not, because he could not break that bulwark made of Grecian shields, and bristled wood of spears, combined about the body slain, amongst whom Ajax bears the greatest labour, every way exhorting to abide, and no man fly the course afoot, nor break their ranks in pride of any foremost daring spirit, but each foot hold his stand, and use the closest fight they could, and this was the command of mighty Ajax, which observed, they steeped the earth in blood. The Trojans and their friends fell thick, nor all the Grecians stood, though far the fewer suffered fate, for ever they had care to shun confusion and the toil that still oppresseth there. So set they all the field on fire, with which you would have thought the sun and moon had been put out. In such a smoke they fought about the person of the prince, but all the field beside fought underneath a lightsome heaven. The sun was in his pride, and such expansure of his beams he thrust out of his throne, that not a vapour durst appear in all that region, no, not upon the highest hill. There fought they still, and breathed, shunned danger, cast their darts aloof, and not a sword unsheathed. The other plied it, and the war and night plied them as well. The cruel steel afflicting all, the strongest did not well, unhurt within their iron roofs. Two men of special name, Antilochus and Thrasymed, were yet unserved by fame, with notice of Patroclus's death. They thought him still alive in foremost tumult, and might well, foreseeing their fellows thrive, in no more comfortable sort than fight and death would yield. They fought apart, for so their sire, old Nestor, strictly willed, and joining fight more from the fleet. War here increased his heat the whole day long, continually the labour and the sweat, the knees, calves, feet, hands, faces smeared, of men that Mars applied about the good Achilles' friend. And as a huge ox hide a courier gives amongst his men, to supple and extend with oil till it be drunk withal, they tug, stretched out, and spend their oil and liquor liberally, and chafe the leather so, that out they make a vapour breath, and in their oil doth go. A number of them set on work, and in an orb they pull, that always all parts of the hide they may extend at full. So here and there did both parts hail the course in little place, and wrought it always with their sweat. The Trojans hoped for grace to make it reach to Iliad, the Grecians to their fleet. A cruel tumult they stirred up, and such as should Mars see it, that horrid hurrier of men, or she that betters him, Minerva, never so incensed, they could not disesteem. So baneful a contention did Jove that day extend, of men and horse about the slain, of whom his godlike friend had no instruction, so far off, and underneath the wall of Troy, that conflict was maintained, which was not thought at all by great Achilles, since he charged that having set his foot upon the ports he would retire, well knowing Troy no boot for his assaults without himself, since not by him as well he knew it was to be subdued. His mother oft would tell the mind of mighty Jove therein, oft hearing it in heaven. But of that great ill to his friend was no instruction given by careful Thetis. By degrees must ill events be known. The foes cleft one to other still about the overthrown. His death with death infected both. Even private Greeks would say, either to other, 'twere a shame for us to go our way, and let the Trojans bear to Troy the praise of such a prize, which let the black earth grasp, and drink our blood for sacrifice, before we suffer. 'Tis an act much less infortunate, and then would those of Troy resolve, through certainly our fate will fell us all together here, of all not turn a face. Thus either side his fellow's strength excited past his place, and thus through all the unfruitful air an iron sound ascended, up to the golden firmament, when strange effects contended in these immortal heaven-bred horse of great Aeacides, whom, once removed from forth the fight, a sudden sense did seize of good Patroclus's death, whose hands they oft had undergone, and bitterly they wept for him, nor could Automedon with any manage make them stir, oft use the scourge to them, oft use his fairest speech, as oft threats never so extreme. They neither to the Hellespont would bear him nor the fight. But still as any tombstone lays his never stirred weight on some good man or woman's graves for rites of funeral, so unremoved stood these steeds, their heads to earth let fall, and warm tears gushing from their eyes, with passionate desire of their kind manager, their manes that flourished with the fire of endless youth allotted them, fell through the yoky sphere. Ruthfully ruffled and defiled, Jove saw their heavy cheer, and pitying them, spake to his mind, "Poor wretched beast," said he, "why gave we you to a mortal king, when immortality and incapacity of age so dignifies your states? Was it to haste the miseries poured out on human fates? Of all the miserablest things that breathe and creep on earth, no one more wretched is than man, and for your deathless birth Hector must fail to make you prize. It's not enough he wears, and glories vainly in those arms, your chariots and rich gears, besides you are too much for him. Your knees and spirits again my care of you shall fill with strength, that so ye may sustain Automedon and bear him off. To Troy I still will give the grace of slaughter, till it fleet their bloody feet arrive, till Phoebus drink the western sea, and sacred darkness throws her sable mantle twixt their points. Thus in the steeds he blows excessive spirit, and through the Greeks and Ilians they wrapped the whirling chariot, shaking off the crumbled centre wrapped amongst their tresses, and with them Automedon let fly amongst the Trojans, making way through all as frightfully as through a jangling flock of geese a lordly vulture beats, given way with shrikes by every goose that comes but near his threats. With such state fled he through the press, pursuing as he fled, but made no slaughter, nor he could, alone being carried upon the sacred chariot. How could he both works do, direct his javelin and command his fiery horses too? At length he came where he beheld his friend Alcimedon, that was the goodly Eurystheus, the son of Aemon's son, who close came to his chariot side and asked, "What god is he that hath so robbed thee of thy soul, to run thus frantically amongst these forfights, being alone, thy fighter being slain, and Hector glorying in his arms?" He gave these words again, "Alcimedon, what man is he of all the Argive race, so able as thyself to keep, in use of press and pace, these deathless horse, himself being gone, that like the gods had the art of their high manage? Therefore take to thy command his part, and ease me of the double charge, which thou hast blamed with right." He took the scourge and reins in hand, Automedon the fight, which Hector seeing instantly, Aeneas standing near, he told him he discerned the horse, that mere a mortal were, addressed to fight with coward guides, and therefore hoped to make a rich prize of them, if his mind would help to undertake, for those two could not stand their charge. He granted, and both cast dry solid hides upon their necks, exceeding soundly brassed, and forth they went, associate with two more godlike men, Aretus and bold Chromius, nor made they question then to prize the goodly crested horse, and safely send to hell the souls of both their guardians. O fools, that could not tell, they could not work out their return from fierce Automedon, without the liberal cost of blood, who first made orison to Father Jove, and then was filled with fortitude and strength. when, counselling Alcimedon to keep at no great length the horse from him, but let them breathe upon his back, because he saw the advance that Hector made, whose fury had no laws, proposed to it, but both their lives and those horse made his prize, or his life theirs. He called to friend these well-approved supplies, the Achilles and the Spartan king, and said, Come, princes, leave a sure guard with the course, and then to your kind care receive our threatened safeties. I discern the two chief props of Troy prepared against us, but herein what best men can enjoy lies in the free knees of the gods. My dart shall lead ye all, the sequel to the care of Jove I leave, whatever fall. All this spake good Automedon, then brandishing his lance, he threw and struck Aretus's shield, that gave it entrance through all the steel, and by his belt, his belly's inmost part, it pierced, and all his trembling limbs gave life up to his dart. Then Hector at Automedon a blazing lance let fly, whose flight he saw, and falling flat, the compass was too high, and made it stick beyond in earth. The extreme part burst, and there Mars buried all his violence. The sword then for the spear had changed the conflict, had not haste sent both the Achilles in, both serving close their fellows' call, who where they did begin, there drew the end. Priamides, Aeneas, Chromius, in doubt of what such aid might work, left broken-hearted thus, Aretus to Automedon, who spoiled his arms and said, A little this revives my life for him so lately dead, though by this nothing countervailed. And with this little vent of inward grief he took the spoil, with which he made ascent up to his chariot, hands and feet of bloody stains so full, that lion-like he looked, new turned from tearing up a bull. And now another bitter fight about Patroclus grew, tear-thirsty and of toil enough, which Pallas did renew, descending from the cope of stars, dismissed by sharp-eyed Jove, to animate the Greeks, for now in constant change did move his mind from what he held of late, and as the purple bow Jove bends at mortals, when of war he will the signal show, or make it a presage of cold, in such tempestuous sort, that men are of their labours eased, but labouring cattle hurt. So Pallas in a purple cloud involved herself and went amongst the Grecians, stirred up all, but first encouragement she breathed in Atreus' younger son, and for disguise made choice of aged Phoenix's shape, and spake with his unwearied voice, O Menelaus, much to fame and equal heaviness will touch at thee, if this true friend of great Aeacides dogs tear beneath the Trojan walls, and therefore bear thee well. Toil through the host, and every man with all thy spirit impel. He answered, O thou long since born, O Phoenix, that hast won the honoured foster father's name of Thetis' godlike son. I would Minerva would but give strength to me, and but keep these busy darts off, I would then make in indeed, and steep my income in their bloods, in aid of good Patroclus. Much his death afflicts me much, but yet this Hector's grace is such with Jove, and such a fiery strength and spirit he has, that still his steel is killing still. The king so royal will Minerva joyed to hear, since she did all the gods outgo in his remembrance, for which grace she kindly did bestow strength on his shoulders, and did fill his knees as liberally with swiftness, breathing in his breast the courage of a fly, which loves to bite so, and doth bear man's blood so much good will, that still though beaten from a man she flies upon him still. With such a courage Pallas filled the black parts near his heart, and then he hasted to the slain, cast off a shining dart, and took one Podes, that was heir to old Eetion, a rich man and a strenuous, and by the people done much honour, and by Hector too, being consort and his guest. and him the yellow-headed king laid hold on at his waist. In offering flight, his iron pile struck through him, down he fell, and up Atrides drew his course. Then Phoebus did impel the spirit of Hector, Phaenops-like, surnamed Asiades, whom Hector used of all his guests with greatest friendliness, and in Abydos stood his house, in whose form thus he spake: Hector, what man of all the Greeks will any terror make of meeting thy strength any more, when thou art terrified by Menelaus, who, before he slew thy friend, was tried a passing easy soldier, where now, besides his end, imposed by him, he draws him off, and not a man to friend from all the Trojans. This friend is Podes, Eetion's son. This hid him in a cloud of grief, and set him foremost on. And then Jove took his snake-fringed shield, and Ida covered all with sulphury clouds, from whence he let abhorred lightnings fall, and thundered till the mountains shook, and with this dreadful state he ushered victory to Troy, to Argos' flight and fate. Peneleus Boeotius was he that foremost fled, being wounded in his shoulder's height, but there the lance's head struck lightly, glancing to his mouth, because it struck him near, thrown from Polydamas. Leitus next left the fight in fear, being hurt by Hector in his hand, because he doubted sore his hand in wished fight with Troy would hold his lance no more. Idomeneus sent a dart at Hector, rushing in, and following Leitus, that struck his bosom near his chin, and brake at top. The Ilians for his escape did shout, when Hector at Deucalides another lance sent out. As in his chariot he stood, it missed him narrowly, for as it fell, Cyrinus drave his speedy chariot by, and took the Trojan lance himself. He was the charioteer of stern Meriones, and first on foot did service there, which well he left to govern horse, for saving now his king, with driving twixt him and his death, though thence his own did spring, which kept a mighty victory from Troy, in keeping death from his great sovereign. The fierce dart did enter him beneath his ear, betwixt his jaw, and it, drave down, cut through his tongue, and struck his teeth out. From his hands the horse's reins he flung, which now Meriones received, as they bestrewed the field, and bade his sovereign scourge away. He saw that day would yield no hope of victory for them. He feared the same and fled, nor from the mighty-minded son of Telamon lay hid, for all his clouds high Jove himself, nor from the Spartan king. They saw him in the victory, he still was varying for Troy, for which sight Ajax said, O heavens, what fool is he that sees not Jove's hand in the grace now done our enemy? Not any dart they touch but takes, from whomsoever thrown, valiant or coward, what he wants Jove adds. Not any one wants his direction to strike sure, nor ours to miss as sure. But come, let us be sure of this, to put the best in yore that lies in us, which twofold is, both to fetch off our friend, and so to fetch him off as we may likeliest contend to fetch ourselves off, that our friends surviving may have right in joy of our secure retreat, as he that fell in fight, being kept as sure from further wrong, of which perhaps they doubt, and looking this way grieve for us, not able to work out our pass from this manslaughterer, great Hector, and his hands, that are too hot for men to touch, but that these thirsty sands before our fleet will be enforced to drink our headlong death, which to prevent by all fit means, I would the parted breath of good Patroclus to his friend with speed imparted were, by some he loves, for I believe no heavy messenger hath yet informed him, but alas, I see no man to send. Both men and horse are hid in mists that every way descend. O Father Jupiter, do thou the sons of Greece release of this felt darkness, Grace this day with fit transparencies, and give the eyes thou givest their use, destroy us in the light, and work thy will with us, since needs thou wilt against us fight. This spake he weeping, and his tears Saturnia's pity showed, dispersed the darkness instantly, and drew away the cloud, from whence it fell. The sun shined out, and all the host appeared. And then spake Ajax, whose heard prayer his spirits highly cheered. Brave Menelaus, look about, and if thou canst descry Nestor's Antilochus alive, incite him instantly to tell Achilles that his friend most dear to him is dead. He said, nor Menelaus stuck at anything he said, as loath to do it, but he went, as from a grazier's stall a lion goes, when overlaid with men, dogs, darts, and all, not easily losing a fat ox, but strong watch all night held. His teeth yet watering, oft he comes, and is as oft repelled. The adverse darts so thick are poured before his brow-hid eyes, and burning firebrands which, for all his great art's heat, he flies, and grumbling goes his way betimes. So from Patroclus went Atrides, much against his mind, his doubts being vehement, lest he gone from his guard, the rest would leave for very fear, the person to the spoil of Greece. And yet his guardians were the Achilles and Meriones, who much his care did press, and thus exhort, Achilles both, and you, Meriones, now let some true friend call to mind the gentle and sweet nature of poor Patroclus. Let him think how kind to every creature his heart was living, though now dead. Thus urged the fair-haired king, and parted, casting round his eye, as when upon her wing an eagle is, whom men affirm to have the sharpest sight of all airs, region of fowls, and though of mighty height, sees yet within her leafy form of humble shrubs close laid a light-foot hare, which straight she stoops, trusses, and strikes her dead. So dead thou strook'st thy charge, O king, through all war's thicket so. Thou look'st, and swiftly found'st thy man, exhorting 'gainst the foe, and heartening his plied men to blows, used in the war's left wing. To whom thou saidst, thou god-loved man, come here, and hear a thing, which I wish never were to hear. I think even thy eye sees what a destruction God hath laid upon the sons of Greece, and what a conquest he gives Troy, in which the best of men, Patroclus, lies exanimate, whose person passing fain the Greeks would rescue and bear home, and therefore give thy speed to his great friend, to prove if he will do so good a deed, to fetch the naked person off, for Hector's shoulders wear his prized arms. Antilochus was highly grieved to hear this heavy news, and stood surprised with stupid silence long, his fair eye standing full of tears, his voice so sweet and strong, stuck in his bosom. Yet all this wrought in him no neglect of what Atrides gave in charge, but for that quick effect he gave Laodocus his arms, his friend that had the guide of his swift horse, and then his needs were speedily applied in his sad message, which his eyes told all the way in tears. Nor would thy generous heart assist his sore-charged soldiers. O Menelaus, in meantime, though left in much distress, thou sent'st them godlike Thrasymedes, and mad'st thy kind regress. Back to Patroclus, where arrived, half breathless thou didst say to both the Achilles, I have sent this messenger away to swift Achilles, who, I fear, will hardly help us now. Though mad with Hector, without arms he cannot fight, ye know. Let us then think of some best mean, both how we may remove the body, and get off ourselves from this vociferous drove, and fate of Trojans. Bravely spoke at all parts Ajax said, O glorious son of Atreus, take thou then straight the dead, and thou, Meriones, we two, of one mind as one name, will back ye soundly, and on us receive the wild fire flame. that Hector's rage breathes after you, before it comes at you. This said, they took into their arms the body, all the show that might be made of those of Troy, at arm's end bearing it. Out shrieked the Trojans when they saw the body borne to fleet, and rushed on, as at any boar, gashed with the hunter's wounds, a kennel of the sharpest set and sorest bitten hounds, before their youthful huntsmen haste, and eagerly awhile pursue, as if they were assured of their affected spoil. But when the savage, in his strength as confident as they, turns head amongst them, back they fly, and every one his way. So troop meal Troy pursued awhile, laying on with swords and darts. But when the Ajaces turned on them, and made their stand, their hearts drunk from their faces all their bloods, and not a man sustained the ford chance nor the after fight, and thus Greece nobly gained the person towards home. But thus the changing war was racked out to a passing bloody length, for as, once put in act, a fire invading city roofs is suddenly engrossed, and made a wondrous mighty flame, in which is quickly lost a house long building, all the while a boisterous gust of wind lumbering amongst it, so the Greeks, in bearing off their friend, more and more foes drew, at their heels a tumult thundering still, of horse and foot, yet as when mules, inhaling from a hill, a beam or mast, through foul deep way, well clapped and heartened close, lie to their labor, tug and sweat, and passing hard it goes. Urged by their drivers to all haste, so dragged they on the course, still both the Ajaces at their backs, who back still turned the force, though after it grew still the more, yet as a sylvan hill thrust back a torrent that hath kept a narrow channel still, till at his oaken breast it beats, but there a check it takes, that sends it over all the vale, with all the stir it makes, nor can with all the confluence break through his rooty sides. In no less firm and brave repulse, the Ajaces curbed the prides of all the Trojans, yet all held the pursuit in his strength, their chiefs being Hector and the son of Venus, who at length put all the youth of Greece besides in most amazeful rout, forgetting all their fortitudes, diswrought and shrieking out, a number of their rich arms lost, fallen from them here and there, about and in the dike, and yet the war concludes not here. End of the 17th book.